It's Wednesday, the 20th of May, and I thought I'd do an update, not necessarily because anything drastic has happened or changed, or that I have like something that I felt like I wanted to share, but just so that I could check in really and keep you posted on how things are going. And so that I'm continuing to offer this support, this insight during this COVID time, to those of you who are following this, because I think even if it's just like anecdotal insights and just general chit chat about what's going on in different parts of the world, I think that can be useful and reassuring and grounding. I definitely find it that way for me. So I mean, it's like things here are feeling really different this week actually, and I don't know if they're feeling different because I have adjusted and become accustomed to things, or feeling different because it's a collective thing and everybody here has. I'm not really sure, because I haven't actually been out in it much. So my observations are made based on what I'm feeling in my energy and in the collective energy and the local energy, and also on what I can see out of my windows, because I live in the middle of the city. So, and I don't live on a main road, I live on two side streets, but they get quite a lot of foot traffic, and they have, shops and cafes and bars. So, so I can kind of see a certain extent, and one of the roads, although it's like a parallel road, so there's my apartment and then it's kind of sandwiched in between two parallel roads. One of them actually, like, it has other roads crossing through it, and I can see one of those roads crossing through it from where I am too. And I'm up quite high, so I can see over lots of building tops and stuff. And if I go on the roof of where I am, then I can see even more. So I have like a perspective and a view of what's going on, but it's not necessarily me walking through and interacting with the city as such. I have done that several times now. I've been out 3 times successfully since our quarantine here was lifted, and each time gets a little easier and feels a little less strange. And I'm finding myself moving closer and closer to a place of not wearing a mask outside. I'm not quite there yet. I'm taking it really slowly, and my reasons for that are personal to me, and that is to do with my immune system and its overall health anyway, in general. So I'm not approaching it from a position of, my immune system is normal and healthy and resilient and, in great health for my age or whatever. And that's not where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a place of, I live a healthy lifestyle. I have a clean lifestyle. I try to use like no chemical products and no artificial ingredients, and nothing that's pre-made. Everything's made from raw ingredients and from scratch. And I try and make most of my own stuff, whether that be cosmetics or foods. But my health is like it's a difficult path. It's a knobbly tree, and it has its ups and downs and it has its strengths and weaknesses. And so for that reason, I'm always really careful about my immune system, because I can be susceptible. But also because of my immune system, sometimes I'm extra resilient to things, which is a curious thing. But it's like when you have like an autoimmune condition or whatever, and you have viruses, those viruses can protect you against other viruses. So for example, Epstein-Barr, which a lot of people have, like the majority of people actually have Epstein-Barr, whether they're aware of it or not, and people have it to different degrees. And when you have Epstein-Barr, like having that virus, because that virus wants to survive and live within you, and if you get killed off, it can't do that. That virus will then protect you from other viruses. So perhaps you don't catch many colds and flus because your Epstein-Barr virus doesn't want to, accommodate them and permit them space within you, and then allow them to like feed off you, take your energy and your kind of like nutrients and everything. So so it's a weird one. It's confusing. It's not a straight line. It's like you can be extra resilient towards some things and not so much towards others. And with the whole COVID thing, that's an unknown entity. There aren't studies on that yet, so I don't know either way. So I'm being cautious and careful, and I'm just taking it slowly and gently, because I mean that's my nature anyway. My nature is I am a calm, quiet, peaceful person. I always say I am the tortoise and not the hare. I do not feel the need to rush towards an end point. I prefer to take my own quiet time. In everything that I kind of like do, I don't like to dive in the deep end. I like it to be gentle. So if I want to get used to a new thing, then I will take it slowly and start at the beginning. So for example, if I wanted to go to a new gym class or a yoga class, I wouldn't put myself into a class that was like of a higher level than me, or a class that was like intense from the beginning, or if I felt a bit rusty or something. I would want to start at the very beginning and then move through it in chronological order, and as I got used to it and understood it more. And that's just the way I am. Other people would prefer to just go dive straight in, and they're fine and they swim and it's all great and they're happy that way. So that's the same for me here with the quarantine and coming out of quarantine into this new whatever it is. I'm not at the front of the race. Yeah, I'm at the back. I'm one of those people in the marathon where you're looking at your watch going, is she ever going to come along, because I'd like to go home now and I'd like to have my dinner, and I'm still chugging along. That's me. So I'm waiting for all of those fast marathon runners to go out there and experience things and test the water and see what's going on, and then I will kind of join them. But I'm quite happy where I am right now. I've kind of worked out a way of it working for me, and it's quiet and it's peaceful and it's fine, and I don't really miss that much, bar going for walks in nature. But because those aren't accessible to me at the moment anyway, because I don't have accessible transport until things open up a bit more, because I hire and don't own a vehicle. It's like, so the nature walks are calling to me, but I can't access them right now anyway, so that takes that desire away. So returning to the point, I've been out, and each time I've been out, it's been less strange. Yeah, like the first time I went out, it was like, oh my goodness, it's really strange. Everyone's walking around with masks on. It's making me feel really scared. Do you look at people and make eye contact? And if you do, like, nobody can tell if anybody's smiling. And so it just like, it all felt a bit weird, and it felt like everybody was a bit unsure, unsettled, a bit scared, some people more than others. And then like the next time I went out, I was less freaked out by that. It felt a little bit more normalized to me. And the third time I went out, even more so. So the third time I went out, I wasn't moving to like make distance. If people were too close and they weren't, with that 2 meters away, it wasn't bothering me anymore. It was like, okay, it's fine. I'm not so fussed anymore. And more people were out there without masks on. So again, it felt more normal, and I felt abnormal with the mask, and I really wanted to take it off because it was hot and I couldn't breathe properly, and my face underneath it was sweating because it's really like hot here now. It's probably like 26, 27, 28 degrees, definitely in the sun, and with a mask on your face, that's just really not a pleasant feeling at all. And if you're walking and you're trying to get exercise, it just feels a bit counterproductive. But I guess the problem with the city is there are so many people, even though there are no or limited tourists here. There are tourists here, as in people who have residency here, but who like split their lifestyle between different countries. So they're kind of semi-expats, are allowed to come in now. So if you have the green card, you're allowed to come in now, but not otherwise. And I don't think you're allowed to get backwards and forwards frequently, but you can kind of come in for like a month or so and then go back home again, as long as you adhere to whatever regulations are set. So yeah, it's not like heaving with people like it would normally be at this time of year, but it's busy enough that there are people around you all the time that you have to kind of like navigate and think about. So it's not so holistic. But yeah, I'm finding myself moving towards that, feeling more normalized, and more comfortable with the return of the hustle and bustle, and with it a desire to just be done with the whole thing. Not be done with it because I'm fed up with being at home and I miss being able to go out and about and meet up with people and go to a cafe and sit and have a juice or something. I'm not really missing that so much. I'm not missing clothes shopping. I'm not missing just going for a walk around all the shops for like 2 or 3 hours. Those things are fine. What I am missing is I'm missing my physiotherapist massively. I'm missing the ability to fix things that are hurting. And I know there's great benefit in being left to your own devices and trying and having to figure out ways to heal yourself on your own. I mean, there is great benefit in that. I'm feeling for me, not for everybody. I'm speaking for me, and it's enabled me to feel a lot more powerful than I did before. It's made me think outside the box a lot more, be more inventive, try to come up with new ways of looking after myself and healing myself. And I've kind of like muddled through that with some success and some complete failures. I've realized there are some things that movement and stretching and tapping and meditation and yoga nidra, and yoga, some things that just can't shift, and hot baths and shaking. And so yeah, there's like, when you need an adjustment, you need an adjustment, and unless you know how to do that yourself at home, which I don't, that's where I've ground to a halt. But with other things, I had more success and felt more confident. And so things that maybe I would have rushed to the doctor for, I'd be like, no, if you're patient with it, if you trust that you'll be okay, then you will be okay. So it's been a blessing as well as a curse. And it's not really so much a curse, it's just a really awkward, uncomfortable, tragic, sad bump, I think. Because it's like people have suffered. People are still suffering. People are suffering for varying reasons and to varying degrees. And I think everybody has suffered to some extent during this time period, some more than others. I've definitely had my moments. I've had my days or my weeks where things have been really, really tough, and I've really missed the security and the aid of being able to go to a hospital and see a specialist about a certain problem that might have cropped up. I mean, that's been really tough, having to deal with stuff on your own, having to put up with it, suck it up, and muddle through with holistic pain management is a weird one, but it's also taught me how much one can endure, how strong one really is, how one is stronger than one ever thought one was, when you thought you were pretty damn strong to start off with. So I think a lot of people have realized that they are way more capable than they thought they were, and that they're way stronger than they thought they were when this all began, because of what they've had to put up with. People have had to put up with being separated from people that they care about really, really deeply. They've had to deal with the worry of people that they care about really, really deeply being sick or potentially being sick. They've lived with the fear of catching this virus, and at the beginning that fear was really strong and really real, because we were being told if we caught it we were a bit screwed and we'd probably die. And it was really heavy-handed and really forceful, and now it's kind of turning out that really wasn't accurate, and that perhaps it's not as bad as they thought it was, that perhaps, you know, most people will be okay. And you know, there are people with health conditions who have had it and been okay too, and that was not the message that they put across at the beginning. So people with health issues, of which there are many, many, many of them in the world, were like really freaked out. And I think that for most people that has shifted, and the fear has lessened to a varying degree depending on where you live, what's going on in your media, and the people around you that you have access to, and the general kind of energy out there. The energy here is very Majorcan. It's very Majorcan. You know, it is a that, like, we always kind of, like, as a foreigner here, we joke that everything is like mañana. Nobody kind of stresses about stuff. If it's not ready and if it's not right, they're like, come back tomorrow, it's fine. And you know, that they're unapologetic about it. That's just normal for the culture. If you have to stand in line in a shop to get served for like half an hour, then nobody apologizes to you for the wait. That's normal. And you know, the shop assistants like to take time, this is pre-COVID, like to take their time to talk to people and have a conversation with them. And it's like, that is part of the culture. And it's frustrating if you're in a rush. It's frustrating if you're from a culture where things are really, really fast and really quick. Like, you walk into a cafe to get a takeaway coffee and it takes like 30 seconds. If it takes longer than that, you get an apology or a free one. Here it's quite normal to wait 15, 20 minutes, maybe even longer. And that's just the way that it works. And when you settle into it, that's a really beautiful, special thing, because people still care about conversation, about interaction, about relationships. I'm not saying it's like warm and fuzzy here, and you know, everywhere it's like, oh, love, love, love. It's not like that at all. It's very, if you're from here and you grew up here and you've been here for generations and generations, then there is an intimacy amongst those people. But if you're an outsider and you've moved here from abroad, then the only people who are kind of open to you are, and who are warm and welcoming to you, are the other people that have moved there from abroad. And then there's the weird kind of like fractions and frictions between the different cultures, because there are lots of kind of different countries think that it should be their island over others. And it's a bit like being at school. There's a bit of like kind of inter-house bickering and bitching. And that's just part of the course, and I guess you get that everywhere, but I think I'm more aware of it here than I've ever been of it anywhere else. And I'm also more aware of the fact that there is a general, like, there's a feeling of like you're not entirely welcome here from the people whose island it really is. And I understand that completely, because foreigners have kind of come and taken the island over, and there are too many people, especially with like it being such a popular tourist resort. So I do understand that the tourist industry and the popularity of the island has ruined the island for a lot of the people that have lived here for generations, because it's busy all the time and prices have gone up, and it's heavily modernized. And I feel that too, because it's changed a lot since when I first came here, and it is really expensive now and really busy, and it's impossible to get properties that are affordable, that you would like to live in, that are of a standard that you're kind of like used to. You pay a lot for not a lot. And yeah, that's kind of like, there are the pros and cons, but it's a really beautiful island. The weather is really lovely for a lot of the year. Yeah, it's like, it has a lot of culture, and the people from here like love their country, love their island, and they celebrate it like deeply. Religion is really welcome here and celebrated, and so there are things that happen here that don't happen in a lot of other countries anymore, and I really appreciate that innocence still existing, and I hope that as we come out of quarantine, those things will exist still. I think it's very strange being in a country that's very touchy-feely, not in the warm and fuzzy kind of way, but in whenever you greet people, you greet them with 2 kisses on the cheeks, and people touch quite a lot, and I don't know what's going to happen with that. That's like a cultural thing, and will that start happening, and how will that change? So that's like quite a strange one, but I'm just trying to get my head around, for now, going out without a mask and being okay around other people and not being freaked out, and trusting that my body and my immune system will do its job, and protect me, as it has done mostly previously, and trust that if it doesn't, and if I do catch this thing and I don't already have immunity to it, because I may well have immunity to it because I may have had it already, I'm not really sure. Lots of us aren't really sure if what we had over kind of winter time was or wasn't, because the symptoms are so diverse. It's not like, oh, you get a cold or get the flu and it's pretty obvious. It's like, no, this one's got kind of like weirder, stranger symptoms, and those symptoms could also be something else completely. But yeah, it's kind of about trust and faith. I think that's what I'm working on right now, and I'm working out like who also I would like to have as my first person that I visit, that I see in person, and I think that will be a really big step for me. And other people might be listening to this and thinking, oh my goodness, that woman is completely crazy. She's totally paranoid. Why is she so fearful of all of these things and everything? And that's, if you're miles ahead of where I am right now in terms of your own adjustments to this whole thing, then I commend you, and that's amazing. And if you were never scared, then that's even better. But it was so heavy here. The way that it was dealt with was so fearful and heavy and intense, and it was like police everywhere, military everywhere, and you got in trouble if you went out, and the fear, and not being able to go in the supermarket more than one person at once, and everything being shut, and getting questioned if you were, going to the shop or whatever. It was like you had to go to the nearest one, and if you weren't, then you got in trouble. And I know this from the other person I live with, not from myself. And the people that were working being like heavily kind of like masked up and gloved up and goggled up, and some had the visor things and everything. So it kind of like told you, hey, this is really scary, you should be careful. And with the whole like, oh, the hospitals are all over flooded, and you know, like people are dropping down left, right and centre, and the doctors are having to choose who lives and who dies, and all of this stuff, which we still don't really know, like, is that true or not? Was that true or not? Because like different sources are coming out saying that that wasn't true and that it was a manipulation by the media. And I don't know, I really don't know. And I don't want to like kind of jump on the, although that's all bollocks kind of bandwagon, because it discredits what actually happened to real people if it's not true. Because again, it could be propaganda that's being put out there, to make us feel like there's nothing to worry about. And I think that's the complication at the moment, is there's a lot of information out there, and some of it's saying no, you should be scared still, and then other information is saying no, don't be scared, it's nothing, it was all blown out of proportion, it was just like a bad flu and the world needs to go back to normal, and you're an idiot if you believe in it. And you know, it's hard to know exactly where to sit in there. You know, I'm kind of like following different sources and listening to both sides of the story, not massively, but enough so that I have an awareness of it, because I've kind of reached like COVID exhaustion in that respect. It's like, I don't want to sit there every single day listening to what's going on, different theories about it, different people saying, you know, it was a pandemic, it was a cover-up, it was a this, it was a that, and what was the true agenda behind it, or what is the true agenda behind it? It's like, yeah, those things are interesting, and educational, and maybe true, maybe not, I don't know, but they make me feel sad and worried and angry and fearful and depressed, and I don't want to exist within that space any longer, because I've spent enough weeks there, thank you very much. And so I've started listening to the things that I was listening to and following before all of this happened, which were all positive things about health and self-development and creativity, and that lifts me up. And maybe that's why I'm feeling braver and stronger this week, and feeling more like I am ready to go outside and remove my mask, because I haven't been surrounding myself by all of this like fear stuff. And so I think there's like a kind of happy medium, and we're all trying to figure out what that medium is, and we're having a bit of success, and then we're having a bit of a flop and a failure, and it's going backwards and forwards, and we're dealing with all sorts of different things, but I think we're getting there. And it's really nice to look out the window and see other people getting there. You know, it's busier here, it's noisier here. There is now pollution again in the air that I am aware of because I can see it on my balcony. You know, the kind of like the black that lands, that's back again, and it was completely absent for a while. There's noise pollution in the night now that kind of like wakes you up, and I'm not so much happy about that. But I'm okay now with hearing people in the background in the distance kind of talking and stuff, and I'm okay with looking out of the window and seeing things open, and like there's a cafe opposite that I can see. And when it first opened up again, I was like, whoa. I was a bit freaked out by it, and I was a bit kind of bemused by it really, because the tables were 2 meters apart, but the chairs were like touching when people sat down, so the people were like sitting next to each other essentially, back to back, and I was really like concerned about that. And there were a big group of children, like teenagers, outside the other day, like 10 of them or whatever, just like standing on the edge of the cafe. So they weren't at the cafe, they weren't like having anything from the cafe, but they were just standing there, and they were like talking next to each other, you know, like normal, with no social distancing, and then they were like kind of touching each other and hugging each other and everything. And that made me feel really uncomfortable, and like they were doing it because they could see that it was making other people in the cafe uncomfortable, and I think they were just like, I don't know, bored and fed up with the whole thing and feeling a bit rebellious. And I was I was uncomfortable with it, and I was kind of like, why are they doing that? Because that's, you know, that's not helpful if that behavior kind of like starts this thing off again, if too many people are doing that. But now I'm more like, maybe that is the behavior we need, and maybe that is the only way through it. And so I think I've adopted more of a if I haven't had this damn thing, perhaps I need to get this damn thing in order to just get my life back and get on with it in a relaxed, calm way, because I'm done with being so fearful of this thing, and it's, you know, it's stopping and blocking stuff. And I want to be able to see a friend. I want to be able to go for a walk and not be fearful. I want to be able to go into a shop if I need to get something. You know, I haven't been into a single shop yet. I'm not there, and I'm conquering the walk thing first, and then when I will approach the shop thing. And I need to, well, I will do the walk thing first, and then I need to do the therapist thing, because I need to get, like, see a osteopath to get stuff sorted out. That's my first thing, and that's my priority, and that's motivating me. Otherwise, I think as an introverted person, I could probably quite happily stay where I was, and not be that fast and adapt and muddle through, because I really am enjoying having a lot of quiet time and alone time, and I'm enjoying the pace of life being so much slower. It's like, I don't know, I guess in a way it's like the pace right now is like being on holiday, as opposed to being in real life, and I like that. It's healing and it's peaceful, and it lifts my soul. So even though the kind of like consequences of that are like financial instability, and concerns about bills and overheads, there's got to be a somewhere in between where things work out, when one doesn't have to revert to where things were before. And I think a lot of people are trying to figure that out, and trying to work out new ways of being in the future that maybe will provide a better life. So yeah, I guess I'm just feeling hopeful today, and curious, and calm. I'm feeling calmer today, about the whole thing. I'm feeling less upset about it, but it comes and goes in waves, so I don't think that the grief about the situation and about how the world has changed has moved through me completely yet. I don't. I think there's probably a way to go with that one, because there's a way to go with this whole thing, and I think there are going to be more things that we have to deal with. It's like, you know, when you sit down and you think, will I ever be able to go to the cinema again, go to the theatre, walk around a museum? Well, like, how on earth is clothes shopping going to work in the future? It's like, what can we try on clothing when we go into a shop? And if we can, then how does that work? How is that hygienic? And if we can't try on clothes, how can we buy clothes without trying them on first? Because, like, you can't tell when it's on the hanger for the most part. You know, you don't necessarily know what size you need in that shop, or whether that style will fit you, or whether it's made particularly well and it hangs right or anything. You can't tell until it's on. So I'm kind of curious about those things, and yeah, it's like, well, we all have to stop making our own clothes at home, perhaps. I guess the argument with the cinema thing as well, cinemas were kind of suffering anyway already, because everybody, you know, kind of like watches stuff at home, and you can get access to movies at home now on demand, and all of those things that didn't exist years ago. And so, yeah, perhaps the cinema, the age of the cinema was already kind of like mostly gone anyway, but it would be sad because it's something I grew up with and I valued, even though I haven't been for quite some time, just due to living in a foreign speaking country. So yeah, there's kind of one pondering around about, and also like with hotels and their swimming pools and their spas. I mean, will those places open again or not? Will it be safe to share a steam room, share a sauna, share a thermal pool? Like, I'm kind of, yeah, I'm curious about that, and I guess that does concern me because I love water, and I love to swim, and usually I swim every single day. It's like my happy place. Yeah, when I'm suspended in water, I feel like I'm weightless, I'm flying, and I love that feeling. And yeah, so to not have had that for so long has been an adjustment for sure. And now it's like summertime and it's hot, to not have like that, the cold water, at the tail end of the day. That will be an interesting summer for sure. And kind of like a cold shower is not quite the same. It's not as fun. I'm the palest I've ever been since living here. Normally I have a tan by now. So yeah, lots of different superficial things as well, like underneath the surface, but they're like kind of, they're superficial, and one will deal with those things when they come and adapt, I guess. So yeah, I hope that you are having a lighter, more curious week as well, and that things your end are improving as time goes on and as we move through this thing. So yeah, that's my message to you.